Explained by the Billy Meier contacts, mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Michel Nostradamus. Contact Report 165.
I have tried to bring some reason among the human beings in this regard, but the newspapers and magazines, etc., have neither noted nor published my articles. They just cannot make any money with the truth, which is why they only set forth senseless and false prophetic nonsense of pseudo-astrologers, pseudo-clairvoyants, and other charlatans and conjurers, whereby they also still mistakenly involve Nostradamus among and with these, and maintain that he already prophesied the same nonsense even then, even though not a word of this is true, and his gloomy prophecies that include planetary phenomena relate to completely different events, which still lie far in the future. But over and over again, these twits and would-be experts of Nostradamus's prophecies appear, who then claim that they have found the key to unraveling his prophecies, particularly because certain events of the world are repeated again and again. And so then, these lunatics are misled to accept that a prophecy had been devised for such an event. This is best seen with the events of Napoleon's time, with the events of the First and Second World War, and with the running time since then. Nevertheless, every possible and impossible prophecy of Nostradamus is actually pressed into these events, even though they do not describe these incidents at all, and these are to be found in other centuries. But the cunning fraudsters make millions with this and become stinking rich through this. It really is a shame, and indeed a rather damned one.
Contact Report 214.
And in sectarian circles, this will probably again be an occasion to make a doomsday scenario, as this will certainly also be the case with the solar eclipse appearing in Europe on the 11th of August 1999, about which even Nostradamus has written, but which is misunderstood, unfortunately.
Contact Report 241.
This fact is ridiculed just as you are ridiculed around the globe. As Nostradamus prophesied about you when he said that you would be mocked at the time when the great earthquake in California was near and when the wall of the GDR fell.
Contact Report 250.
During the last time I have dealt a little more thoroughly with Nostradamus as well as with his so-called prophecies. I never had any reason to do so before. Recently someone asked me about Michel Nostradamus and other visionaries. So I tried to do these things. My knowledge was this: Nostradamus was indeed a seer who foresaw many things. But many of his statements are not actual prophecies, as it is generally so gladly seen, because often they are, so to speak, prophylactic warnings, if I may say so. With this insight, I have also found out that so far, in fact, none of those persons have found the key to the Nostradamus statements who claim that of themselves. Moreover, the realization of the Nostradamus statements depends on the fact that in world politics, no improving situations are created, which would change the course of world events, etc., for the better, as this must be the case with prophecies if they are to be fulfilled. This fact also applies to statements of other visionaries, etc., which appear in large numbers. The religious fanatics and all kinds of religious sectarians are now in high season again. But these are also mainly the ones who transform purely prophylactic warnings of seers and real prophets into enormous threats and blasphemous assertions, as well as the statements of Michel Nostradamus, who was actually medicus, healer, astrologer, and alchemist of his sign. Truthfully, not many of his prophecies have arrived yet, but only just 14%, which is why one has to be extremely careful with the term seer. What will come out in terms of his prophylactic statements for the future will be proven in the time to come. According to his statements, if all his warnings and also the prophecies are true, a great deal will be changed in this world. With a review of Nostradamus's way of working, I also found out that only after the 1st of March 2055 the actual great events should occur, whereby this should also be the point in time from which the key for his statements should possibly be found and fathomed. Somehow, it seems to me, Michel Nostradamus also wanted to set a monument to himself with his works, because he wanted to remain in people's memories. Nevertheless, a seer and prophet cannot be denied him to a certain degree, as is the case with the most diverse other seers, whose statements I have examined and clarified. We already talked about Nostradamus. About him, certain people say that some of his warnings and prophecies are tendentious Jewish Arab.
There are indeed some things true, but this is not surprising when you know that his parents were of Jewish faith and that he was also taught in the Jewish religion as well as in Islam. Nonetheless, Nostradamus was strongly attached to the Christian faith and was quite unobjective and misguided in this regard.
Contact Report 275.
Actually, I did not want to talk about tomorrow, the 11th of August, 1999, but a question was put to me about that day. You know that many false prophets who deal with astrology and Nostradamus predicted a lot of disaster tomorrow, even the beginning of the Third World War and the end of the world, which is of course all nonsense. The starting point for all these gloomy false assertions and prophecies is Michel Notre Dame alias Michel Nostradamus and his prophecies respectively, whereby in particular Centuria X 1072 is used, which explains the following. Azared Hay, l'an 1999 7 mois, du ciel viendra en grand roi des frayeurs, ressusciter le grand roi d'Angolmois, avant et après Mars régner par bonheur. Translated into German, it means something like, in the year 1999, a great king of horrors comes from heaven. Angolmois' great king resurrected before. After Mars, the kingdom shall be happy. Another translation, in 1999, the 7th month, a great king of horrors will appear in the sky. He will awaken the great king of Angolmois from the dead. Before and after, Mars will rule at a good time. As you hear, some things emerge from these two translations that do not exactly coincide. And the more you read such translations of the Nostradamus verses, the more you encounter inconsistencies. Also, with regard to the interpretations of the prophetic verses, a great salad prevails, for there are attributed to events that have taken place some Nostradamus verses, which in reality have completely different reasons, and took place at different times than the deciphers and unravelers of the Nostradamus prophecies claim. So far, in truth, only a few prophetic verses written by Michel Nostradamus have really been deciphered, such as the part of Centuria X 72 that refers to the eclipse of the sun of the 11th of August 1999. But all the nonsense of the false prophets, who refer to their astrological abilities and to the Centurion X 72 of Nostradamus, has absolutely nothing to do with his prophecies. Also, that tomorrow's eclipse of the sun is supposed to cause some disaster in the short or long term, or that a spiritual change of the world results from it, or even the Third World War or the end of the world. This corresponds not only to a nonsensical assertion, but also to an effective nonsense, and that no matter by which false prophets the idiotic statements and assertions are made. Solar eclipses, both partial and total, have existed for millions of years, for as long as Earth, Moon, and Sun have existed. And never did a solar eclipse have any influence on earthly world events or on the changes of consciousness of man. The only influences that appeared were those of faith and delusion, although these were not triggered by the eclipse itself, but solely by the fear and delusion of the people themselves, who always saw something dangerous, terrifying, disastrous, and frightening behind an eclipse event. And although Nostradamus was somewhat more knowledgeable and enlightened than his contemporaries, he also saw in an eclipse of the sun all those horrors which the other mad believers of his time also saw. And as there are many such still today, first of all the false prophets and prophetesses of astrological and Nostradamic as well as similar nature. I just wanted to have said that. But now to the question that I actually wanted to address to you. How did Michel Notre Dame or Nostradamus actually come to his prophetic verses? Was he clairvoyant, or did he have inspirations? Was everything based on astrological calculations, or did he have visions? For my part, I cannot answer this question exactly, why I need your help. I am also interested in myself, which is why I think that you can certainly help me by answering the questions correctly. Since my interest has also been aroused, it is not exclusively a question from other people. What do you mean?
First of all, I would like to agree with all what you have explained concerning Nostradamus and the false prophets, and I think that this was good, because surely you will write down and publish our present conversation as a contact report, whereby also all interested persons in this relationship receive the correct information. Secondly, I think that it is correct that I can answer your questions, as the interest in this is mainly with you. So it has to be explained that Nostradamus compiled his prophetic verses in different ways, namely by performing astrological and astronomical calculations, but also by having visions and clairvoyant abilities. But he mixed all this with so-called means of expanding consciousness because he was addicted to drugs and opium. However, this did not prevent him from grasping real prophetic moments and dressing them in verses. More cannot actually be explained, because you yourself have brought up the further necessary issues.